evening. I am Phyllis Logan, your host for this evening, Chicago Westside Branch NAACP. We are a live interactive talk show, so please, you're encouraged to call in and be a part of the conversation this evening. 312-738-1060. We have a few topics. We're going to talk about the automatic voters registration. And then we're going to go into a couple of events that are happening this week, the end of this week, as well as this weekend that the NAACP is collaborating on. And then some other announcements that come through our community. And I want to touch bases on an FCC communications that the NAACP, the National NAACP, is opposing the Federal Communications Commission's plan to, take away the safeguards when it comes to access to the internet. So first, let's continue on with our conversation that we had briefly last week with our second vice president as well as our political action chair person, Ramel Terry. She talked about how you could register to vote, and that we'll also be hosting a few voter registration drives for the 2018 upcoming election. The primary, which is in March, as well as the general, which is in November of next year. We want to get you prepared for that. But there's a piece of legislation in Springfield, and if you write it down, Senate Bill 1933. It's an act concerning the election. What they have decided to do, and the NAACP, we've not weighed our opinion on this one way or the other, but it's a statute that allows you, when you go to reapply for your driver's license with the Secretary of State. So any business you go into the Secretary of State to do, part of that agreement with the Secretary of State and the State Board of Elections is to have you do this interagency contract where you jointly go into two paths of business. So you're applying for your driver's license, and at the same token you have an option to register to vote. You're applying for a state ID. You also have an option to apply to register to vote. And the reason why this is synonymous to each other is because you have a current address, you have to produce a current address, you have to show ID to show that you live at that residence, and automatically you're put on a path to say, I don't have to worry about this anymore. They have my information. I don't have to show my ID to anyone if that situation ever occurs in our state, the state of Illinois. You don't have to show any ID when you go to register, when you go to vote. But this nips that in the bud. It says when you register to get your driver's license, you're also registering to vote. That pathway, which is a campaign by the Chicago Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, they've been encouraging this piece of activity to happen. And on November 20th, there was a public comment period. I don't know the outcome of what the public comment period was all about, who was on whose side to move forward with this or not. I'll have to follow up with that. I tried to do that this evening, do a little research prior to coming into the session this evening, but I wasn't able to get the answer or response on how that public comment period went. It has ended, and we'll have to give you some updates next week. But it's, give me your thoughts on it. To walk in and register for your driver's license or for a state ID, or to change your address on your driver's license or your state ID, when those things occur, you can automatically choose the option to change your voter registration as well. Or if you're new at driving, this is your first time getting a driver's license, or if you're a 17-year-old getting a state's ID, you can choose that option to automatically register to vote. And it goes right into one state department to the other state department, from the Secretary of State to the Board of Elections. So 312-738-1060. Call us in and give us your comment or your opinion on that. The second thing we want to talk about is, let's see, the NAACP, when I talked about FCC, There's a lot, this piece of activity is going on in Washington, D.C. right now. It deals with the NAACP is opposing this piece of legislation, which our Congress is looking to vote on whether or not to allow, to get rid of some regulations that were put in place under the prior president, President Obama. Under the regulations set by the Obama administration, it really was a protection against cable companies, internet companies, charging just out of line, charging what they wanted to charge you for these services. How can this be created safely that it's an equal opportunity for everyone if the companies are able to charge you a fee and then not be regulated on the services that they deliver to you if Congress does not regulate them? So the NAACP opposes this FCC plan to repeal the net neutrality. So when you hear something about the net neutrality in reference to FCC, it's in reference to your protections as a consumer to the internet, having access to the internet, having equal access to the internet without being overcharged or without being underserviced by the carriers for the internet. So the NAACP is opposing that. We don't want them to repeal the net neutrality system that was put in place under the past administration. So if you hear that, that's a signal to say this administration wants to deregulate something that's there to protect you. And there's been some conversation today in reference to also the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It is slowly being taken away, and the CFPB was put in place to protect the consumers. It got implemented when the market crashed, and it was a way to protect consumers under mortgages, under banking, checking savings accounts, student loan debt. There were many avenues in which this bureau has been protecting as well as suing big corporations when they don't do right. So when you hear that the CFPB is being attacked, then you have to say, what part of business don't they want the consumer, you the consumer, us the consumers, to be protected from? They're taking away all the regulations, this new administration. The FCC, they're taking away your opportunity to receive good service, equal service, that you're protected of the services that you're being given once you pay for the internet. So why wouldn't you want to be protected by that? So be careful when they say they want to deregulate something. It means all hands are on deck, and industries can do what they want and charge what they want, and you still not be protected or given proper and adequate services for what you pay for. So we have to be on the lookout for those things. This week is the beginning, the end of one month, and the beginning of a new month. And as we've always stated, the first Saturday of every month is our monthly meeting. The NAACP, we're located at 5820 West Chicago Avenue, and we invite you to come out this Saturday at 1 p.m., 5820 West Chicago Avenue, or if you have questions or comments, you can always call our office, 773-261-5890. But our general meetings are open to the public. We start at 1 p.m., and we'd like to see you stop by, or if you have any questions after the show, you can always call our office with your comments or concerns. So with that, we have two events that are coming up. One's on this Thursday. This coming Thursday, I do believe Thursday is the 30th, the last day of the month. We have a forum that we're presenting, and it's, let me give you some, I'll show you the flyer. It's been posted on our, I think it's on our Facebook, it's on a few other places. but you can buy a home that's in need of repair. So you can go from this picture here, which shows a picture of a kitchen that's in dire need of repair, to this one that has been totally revamped, redone, rehabbed. And the type of loan that we're wanting to educate you on is the FHA 203K loan. The FHA 203K loan is only for owner-occupants who have never had an FHA loan or government loan within the last 3 years. So you can acquire a piece of property and then also borrow the monies to fix that home up to code. Of course, you have to go through the regulations, the process of making sure that you have a viable general contractor to do the work, someone who has liability insurance as well as the capacity to pull permits. You cannot do major work to a home in the city of Chicago, especially as it relates to electricity and plumbing, without a permit. Something, as well as doing major structural work. You wouldn't want someone coming in knocking down a wall and it winds out that that's your burial wall. That's the wall that holds up the house, and they knock it down, then the whole house comes crashing down. That's really what permits are for, to protect you, the homeowner or the occupant. But we want to give you the instructions on how to get an FHA 203K loan. It's similar to a regular conventional loan to purchase a home. The difference is it comes twofold. You borrow the monies to buy the home, and then you borrow the monies in one swoop to rehab the home. So the best case scenario that we have for this example is that for all of the homes that are on the market right now, many of them were selling in the last 5 years for far less than par value, market value, meaning you could have bought a home 5 years ago for $10,000. And I guess we didn't do the community a good service by not bringing this process, this opportunity to light a few years ago, even though we tried. But with the 203K loan, the FHA 203K loan, you have to qualify. Your credit has to be up to par. You have to qualify to purchase a home. You have to qualify to purchase a loan for a home the same way as though the home was ready for you to move in. When you buy the homes that are now in the state that they're in for far less than what they're worth, if you buy a home for $30,000 and you have a general contractor come in and say, well, this home needs about $60,000, $70,000 worth of work to bring it back up to code, bring it back up to habitable conditions, then you now have a $100,000 loan, which we think many consumers would possibly fare better at affording than if you were to go out and buy someone else's product. Not saying that you cannot and should not, but this is another option to say that you could walk through the door with equity if you were to take this route, as opposed to someone else doing all of the work for you and then selling it to you after they've completed the process. So this way you would have a hands-on to selecting the color of paint that you want, or the type of doorknobs that you want, or the type of kitchen cabinets you want, those sorts of things. So if the house costs $30,000, $40,000, it needs $60,000, $70,000 worth of work, it's still far less than $125,000. We want to educate you on this process. And this workshop is this Thursday, November the 30th at 6:30 p.m. at our office address, 5820 West Chicago Avenue. A few of the organizations that are working with us, we have an elected official who's also promoting this this workshop. State Representative LaShawn Ford has pushed many of our agenda items forward for us. Universal Housing Solutions is our nonprofit organization that is hosting this. and it's being supported by us, the NAACP. We're collaborating with them, but we're also inviting in the experts. So we will have a general contractor there, one who is HUD certified, to give you a clear description of how this process works, the step-by-step to making this type of purchase work for you. So we're looking to see you Thursday. We will start at 6:30 p.m. at 5820 West Chicago Avenue. The second event that we have this week is also based on home ownership. We are collaborating with Wells Fargo this Saturday. We will be at the Columbus Park Reflectory from 9 a.m. The doors open at 8. From 9 a.m. to noontime at 5700 West on Jackson at the Columbus Park Reflectory. There's a home buyers workshop. It's pretty much on education as well, on how to become a homeowner, but to also talk about some of the programs and products that Wells Fargo has to offer. The NAACP is doing this in conjunction with, we have the NHS, the Neighborhood Housing Services. We also have Rainbow Push. They're collaborating with us on this, and the Chicago Urban League. They have a couple of other organizations or entities that will be there. I heard today that the Illinois Housing Development Authority will be there to talk about its down payment program, as well as Spanish Coalition. If you're Spanish speaking, Spanish language, we will also have someone who can help us interpret and still be able to assist you in an equitable way. So that's this Saturday, December the 2nd, at Columbus Park Reflectory. We start at 9 a.m. The program will start at 9 a.m. We'll have a couple of sessions on how to become first-time home buyers, the first-time home buyers education workshops that you should attend to talk about financing and credit. But we'll also have those down payment assistance programs to help you get further into the process, as opposed to, not taking advantage of something that's there to assist you. And then there's going to be a workshop to help dispel some of the myths about becoming a homeowner. I think many times we're afraid of a process because we don't know the process. So these two workshops are there to educate you, the consumer, and we really have to do more to help you become stakeholders within our community. From the Austin community on the west, even Galewood to the further northwest, to Garfield Park, to Lawndale, East Garfield Park, West Garfield Park, to the near loop, to Humboldt Park. There are so many opportunities. There's so many homes that are sitting there boarded and vacant. Our communities have become blight. We've got to do a better job of helping you get where you need to go and securing home ownership if that's where you want to be. But to also let you know of the opportunities that exist. And we've not done as much because we've still been going through the downfall of the 2008 market crash. That market crash was at worst case scenarios because of non-regulations. So when I talked earlier about Congress deregulating a lot of things, well, the industry is still regulated. And if you want to take part in home ownership, there's no better time like now. 312-738-1060. Give us a call. Let me have your questions, your comments, and join in the conversation. We welcome you. But I want to go back to also inviting you this Saturday after the Wells Fargo event at the Columbus Park. Then it's time for you to join us in our monthly meeting. And, our monthly meetings, first Saturday of every month, we're hoping to instill and empower in you all that we have to offer from our many committees. The NAACP nationally has 17 committees. So locally, we all follow the same constitution, same bylaws, we also have 17 standing committees. Not all 17 are active from the West Side, as well as the South Side. It takes a lot of people, which is why membership is power. But out of the 17, I think we have possibly 6 that are really proactive, active in the communities, out there doing things on a regular basis. We are volunteers, so we give our time when it's available. Some have more time than others, and then we just have to play it by ear when we're available to participate in the activities and run the mission of and purpose of the NAACP. We're proud card-carrying members of the NAACP. We believe in the substance and what the NAACP stands for. It's 109 years, almost 110-year-old organization. Been in existence way before any of us were thought of, those that are active now. We believe our ancestors did an awesome job keeping the organization running, fighting for democracy, for all people, for equal rights, for civil rights. And we just carry on that thought process. We carry on that conversation within our community. So we invite you to join us at these 2 events we have coming up. Thursday at 6:30 p.m. over at 5820 West Chicago Avenue. Saturday from 9 to noon at Columbus Park. And then back at 5820 West Chicago Avenue at 1 p.m. on Saturday. We really encourage you to take part in what we're doing and you know, be there to encourage us, but let us also be there to encourage you. We have to continue this fight, and this fight has always been about democracy and equality in all things that we all live by. So we appreciate you being a part in that. When I go back to the voters registration, I have to continue to talk about this too. Many candidates are getting petitions signed, and we talked about this last week. And the one thing that I was able to find out is that you have to be a registered voter in the area where the elected official is, meaning you have to live in that district or that ward. You have to be a registered voter to sign that petition. So meaning that if you live in Lawndale and you're voting for an elected official who's running for a position either in Lawndale or further out territory, depending on whether commissioners, we've got the commissioners running, who else? Our state elected officials are running, your state representative as well as some of your state senators. They will tell you their area. You can look on your card. It tells you what precinct you live in. It tells you what ward, what district you live in. It tells you what representative, number, area, district you live in. So you'll be able to see all of that. And it's that person who's running for that position whose petition you are allowed to sign. If there's someone in southern part of Illinois that's running and you sign their petition, when those petitions are selected to be validated and they find out that you're not a registered voter, then that signature, it doesn't count. So we don't want you doing that. You can only sign one petition. You should only sign one petition for the candidate who represents you. So that was one of the things we found out after our conversation from last week. The other thing we found out, election day next year is March 20th, 2018. Eligible voters should be able to do early voting. Early voting is from February 8th through March 19th. So there's no excuse not to vote in this next primary. And then you can always visit the Illinois State's Secretary of State's office for more information. They are taking positions. Positions are open for election judges as well as for election coordinators. What you can do is go to the Chicago Board of Elections webpage and find out. I know they started taking applications for employment to be election coordinators. They started doing that this month in November, but they also started taking applications for employment as election judges. You have to go through the training to understand what you're doing at the polls that day. So look up the Chicago Board of Elections on their webpage and go to election coordinators or election judges for employment opportunity. Don't miss out on that. To qualify for these positions, of course, you have to be a U.S. citizen. You have to be a registered voter in Cook County. If you, I think one of the other qualifications for a coordinator is that you have to be an Illinois or a college student. So you want to look for that. And some other eligibilities here, you have to complete all of the required training. So those are two positions that take place. Those jobs run for the course of the election and for during the early voting cycle as well as election day. So if you want to take part in that, go to the Chicago Board of Elections for more information on that. And then once again, we'll have more information on this from our chair of political action chair who we had on the phone last week. I'm quite sure she'll have some comments this coming Saturday at our general meeting. So feel free to stop by or feel free to call our office, 773-261-5890, for more information on taking part in our political action committee. They've got to do some voter registration real soon. We've got to get out there and register people to vote prior to the primaries in March. But, many times we have to make sure our 17-year-olds who will be 18 years of age by the general election next year, we have to make sure that they're registered. So we try to go into the high schools and try to coordinate with the school administration to make sure these kids are registering to vote, trying to give them some education on civic engagement as well. We take part in that, and that's what our political action committee is all about. So we encourage you to be a part of that. Our housing committee, Housing and Economic Sustainability Committee, those are the two committees that I take part in, that I'm the chair of, and I do those because that's where my passion is. But we oversee events like these two housing outreach events that are happening this Thursday as well as this Saturday with Wells Fargo. So our AXO committee, we have several other, I say we have about 6 or 7 that are really active. Our education committee is pretty active. Our our criminal justice committee is pretty active right now. We have some litigation going on in the city of Chicago. So the NAACP, the Chicago Westside, we have a lot to offer, and we encourage you to take part. Once again, general meeting first Saturday, this Saturday, December 2nd at 1 p.m., 5820 West Chicago Avenue. Plenty of street parking. Can't miss us. We're in the Sankofa building. We're open to the public, and we welcome you to stop by. And we want to, as always, I think we do this every week, we want to thank CAN TV because it allows us to be a voice for those who cannot speak for themselves or are not encouraged as well to speak for themselves. We'd like to be that advocate for you, our general public. So I am Phyllis Logan, your host, and as always, we take pleasure in being here to bring you as much information as possible, and we look to see you next Monday at 7:30 p.m. Thank you and have a good evening.